Ethan never liked surprises. Living alone in the Martian colony, he had learned early that predictability was comforting. The colony itself was a blend of red dust and shining metal, a collection of domed habitats connected by narrow tunnels. The world outside was harsh and empty, but inside, humans had built small pockets of comfort, gardens under glass, libraries with soft light, and neighbors who were just as peculiar as they were brilliant. His neighbor, Dr. Leora Hayes, belonged to the latter category. She had moved in 6 months ago, a scientist with an obsession for hidden knowledge and a habit of muttering to herself about the stars as if they were alive. Most people avoided her eccentricities, but Ethan had found her fascination oddly captivating. There was something sharp in her mind, a spark he couldn't ignore. One evening, as Ethan returned from the engineering bay after a long day fixing the colony's solar arrays, he noticed Leora standing at the edge of her garden, her hair glowing faintly in the red light of the Martian sunset. She waved him over with urgency. "Ethan," she said, her voice unusually serious, "I need you to watch something with me tonight." Ethan raised an eyebrow, wiping the sweat from his brow. "No," Leora shook her head. "It's a show, yes, but not entertainment. Something important. If you don't watch it with me, don't come tomorrow." Ethan paused, staring at her. The words felt strange, almost like a threat wrapped in concern. "Don't come tomorrow?" he repeated, trying to mask his unease with humor. "That's oddly dramatic for a show." Leora's eyes didn't flicker. She was deadly serious. "I'm not joking. Watch it. Just tonight. Please." Ethan wanted to ask why, to tease her about being dramatic, but something in her tone made him hesitate. The air between them seemed charged, like a storm brewing on the horizon. Finally, he nodded. "All right, I'll watch your show. What time?" "8 sharp. No excuses." She turned and walked back into her dome, leaving Ethan with a feeling he couldn't shake. The hours passed slowly. Ethan tried to work on repairs, calibrate the colony's sensors, and even read some reports about Mars's shifting dust storms. But his mind kept drifting to the show. Why would Leora be so insistent? And why the warning? By 8 o'clock, he found himself standing on the threshold of Leora's dome. The interior was strange and inviting at the same time. Walls lined with screens displaying galaxies, holographic models of alien planets rotating slowly, and shelves stacked with books that looked ancient, even though Mars had been colonized only decades ago. "Right on time," Leora said, giving him a small smile. She motioned to a circular room at the center of the dome. A single chair and a holo projector stood waiting. "Sit. Watch. Learn." Ethan hesitated but obeyed. The chair was comfortable. But there was an odd weight in the room, a sense that something monumental was about to happen. Leora activated the holoprojector, and a soft light filled the space. Images appeared, stars, planets, and slowly, a strange civilization unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. "Focus," Leora whispered. "Every detail matters." At first, it seemed like a documentary. Alien creatures, tall and luminous, moved with precision and purpose. Cities floated on water, forests glimmered with bioluminescent life, and machines seemed alive, working in harmony with their surroundings. Ethan couldn't look away. Every movement was graceful, almost hypnotic. Then, he noticed something unusual. These aliens weren't just living, they were communicating in a way humans had never attempted. Symbols appeared in mid-air, forming patterns that seemed to interact with the environment, almost like language made of light itself. Ethan felt a tingle in his mind as he tried to process it. "They're teaching something," he murmured. "But what?" "They're showing us a method," Leora said softly. "A way to think differently, to adapt, to survive." Ethan's heart raced. "Survive?" He glanced at Leora. Her face was calm, but her eyes held a fierce intensity. "Survive what?" he asked. "Tomorrow," she said simply. "You'll understand soon enough. Just watch." The holo show shifted, and suddenly, It wasn't just visuals, it was interactive. Patterns floated toward Ethan, and instinctively, he moved his hands, tracing the symbols in the air. Each movement seemed to unlock something in the projection, revealing deeper layers of knowledge. Leora guided him silently, her fingers dancing through invisible sequences, decoding meanings that seemed impossible at first. Hours passed like minutes. Ethan realized that every symbol, every sequence, was a test, a challenge. And he was not the only one watching. Leora had been doing this for months, perhaps longer. The way she moved, the confidence in her gestures, showed that she understood something essential that most humans did not. Then came the moment that made Ethan's stomach drop. A series of images flashed on the screen, showing humans, people from Earth, and the colonies interacting with the aliens. The humans were clumsy, making mistakes, failing to understand. The aliens observed, their forms pulsing with intelligence and judgment. "They're watching us," Ethan whispered. "Yes," Leora replied. "They always watch first. They test before they engage." Her voice was steady, but there was urgency underneath. Humanity is being judged on how we think, how we adapt. It's not strength alone that matters, it's creativity, intuition, courage. Ethan's mind raced. The idea that humans were being watched by an alien intelligence was terrifying. And yet, there was something exhilarating about it. The thought that human ingenuity, something he had always taken for granted, might be the key to survival, made his pulse quicken. The show ended with a silent sequence. A pattern of light and sound that made Ethan feel like his mind was stretching. Like he was understanding concepts he couldn't yet name. He turned to Leora, wide-eyed. What just happened?" he asked. Leora smiled faintly. "That, Ethan, was the first step. The real test begins tomorrow. If we fail, humanity may never get a second chance. But if we succeed—" She paused, letting the thought hang in the air. "We show the universe what humans are capable of." Ethan sat in silence, the weight of her words settling over him. He had come expecting a strange evening with his eccentric neighbor, but he had found himself on the edge of something far bigger, something that could change everything he thought he knew about humans, the universe, and himself. He left Leora's dome late that night, his mind buzzing with patterns, symbols, and the alien message he didn't yet fully understand. The red dust of Mars shimmered under the dim colony lights, and he felt the vastness of space pressing down on him in a way it never had before. For the first time, Ethan realized that survival wasn't about building stronger walls or fixing machines. It was about thinking differently, about adapting, about proving that humans, no matter how small and fragile they seemed, could rise to challenges no one else could imagine. And deep in his chest, a spark of excitement ignited. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. And for the first time in his life, Ethan felt ready. The next morning, Ethan woke to the soft hum of the colony's life support systems. Red light filtered through the dome, casting long shadows across the corridors. His mind was still buzzing from the holo show he had watched with Leora the night before. Symbols, patterns, and glowing sequences replayed in his thoughts, like a puzzle he could not quite solve. He paused at the kitchen module, staring at the synthetic bread on the counter. How could something so simple as breakfast feel so insignificant when the universe itself seemed to be calling for attention? The warning Leora had given him, the one about not coming tomorrow if he skipped the show, made more sense now. Something was happening, something far beyond his ordinary life. By mid-morning, he found himself at Leora's dome again. She greeted him with a small nod. "Ready?" she asked. Ethan swallowed hard. "I think so," he said, although his voice betrayed the nervous tension in his chest. "Good," Leora replied, leading him to the circular room where the holo projector waited. "Today, you will learn more. Watch carefully. Every detail counts." The projector came alive. This time, the images were different. No longer were they just scenes of alien cities or moving symbols. The holo show now displayed interactions, aliens and humans communicating, attempting to exchange ideas, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing. Ethan leaned forward, mesmerized. The aliens' forms were luminous, almost transparent, yet their intelligence shone through every movement. They didn't speak in any language humans recognized. Instead, their communication was mathematical and visual, patterns of light and geometry flowing between them and the humans on the screen. "They're teaching," Ethan murmured. "But what exactly?" "That," Leora said, "is what we have to figure out. They test our ability to think differently. They want to see if humans can adapt." Getting less. As the show continued, Ethan noticed something remarkable. Every pattern, every glowing shape, seemed to respond to certain human actions. A hand movement, a thought gesture, even a simple decision. These were mirrored and amplified in the projections. It was as if the aliens were probing not just the human body, but the mind itself. "They're not just teaching," Ethan said slowly. "They're observing, measuring, evaluating." "Yes," Leora agreed. "Tomorrow, the test will be real. If we fail, they will assume humans are unworthy of meaningful contact." She paused, looking him directly in the eyes. "But if we succeed, we could be the first humans to truly engage with another intelligent species." The holoshow shifted again. This time, it projected a puzzle directly into the room. Ethan could see it floating in midair. A series of symbols arranged in patterns that seemed almost alive. The light twisted and turned, forming shapes that changed if he moved too quickly or too slowly. Ethan felt a strange thrill run through him. He reached out, mimicking the patterns with his hands. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the symbols began to respond, shimmering in a new sequence. It was like dancing with an unseen partner. The aliens were guiding him, but only if he could match their rhythm. "You're getting it," Leora said softly. "Keep going. Don't overthink. Trust your instincts." Time seemed to lose all meaning. Minutes stretched into hours as Ethan traced patterns, solved geometric puzzles, and deciphered sequences that would have made even the most brilliant Earth scientists pause. Leora moved beside him, her fingers gliding through invisible motions, demonstrating subtleties he could hardly perceive. And then, a realization struck him. These patterns were not random. They weren't merely a puzzle, they were a language. A language humans had never tried to speak before, and the aliens were giving them a chance to learn it, to prove that human minds could handle concepts far beyond ordinary understanding. Ethan's pulse quickened. "Leora, this isn't just learning. This is a test." "Yes," she whispered. "And tomorrow, the test will be real. The aliens will come. They will observe. If we fail, it won't just be a failure for me or you. It will be a failure for all of humanity." A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. He had faced technical failures, dust storms, and equipment malfunctions on Mars before. But this felt different. The stakes were unimaginably high, and yet, beneath the fear, a spark of excitement burned. This was human ingenuity in action, the very thing that had allowed their species to survive on a barren planet like Mars. The holoshow ended with a sequence of lights that formed a simple, yet impossible-looking pattern. Ethan and Leora stared at it in silence. "That," Leora said, her voice barely above a whisper, "is the key. We have to understand it fully by tomorrow." Ethan frowned, studying the shape. It seemed to pulse, almost like it was alive. How? How can we understand something like this in less than a day?" Leora smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it. "Humans adapt. Humans think in ways no other species can. We just need to see it, feel it, and trust our instincts." Ethan nodded slowly, his mind already racing. He replayed the patterns over and over in his head, trying to find connections, sequences, anything that could make sense. Hours passed, and he realized that understanding the symbols required more than memory. It required creativity, intuition, and an unusual way of seeing the world. By the time he left Leora's dome that evening, Ethan felt different. He had touched the edge of something vast and unknowable. And he knew that tomorrow, nothing would be ordinary. The red Martian dust outside seemed brighter, more alive, as if the planet itself were aware of what was coming. As he lay in his small sleeping pod that night, he couldn't stop thinking about the aliens, the symbols, and the show. He realized that the real challenge wasn't just solving the puzzles, it was proving that humans, as a species, could meet an intelligence far beyond their own. Sleep came fitfully. When Ethan dreamed, it was not of stars or planets, but of glowing symbols, shifting patterns, and the aliens themselves, watching, waiting, testing, and in the quiet moments before dawn, he made a silent promise to himself. He would not fail. Not for himself, not for Leora, and not for humanity. Morning came, pale and quiet. The colony's life support systems hummed softly. Ethan dressed quickly, checking his tools and his notes. Leora was already waiting in the hallway, her expression calm but determined. "Today," she said, "everything changes." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. They walked together to the central projection room, where the holo projector awaited. But before Leora could start the show, a sudden alert flashed on the colony's monitoring system. Something was descending from the sky, bright, shimmering lights moving with impossible precision. Ethan's heart raced. He stared at Leora. "The aliens?" he whispered. "They're here," she said, her voice steady. "And they're watching. Everything we've learned, every symbol, every pattern, will be tested in real time. No practice, no second chances." Ethan felt the weight of those words. The nights learning, the hours spent tracing glowing shapes, all led to this moment. And yet, amidst the fear, he felt a strange thrill. Humanity had survived countless challenges on Earth, and now, on Mars, they had a chance to prove themselves to the universe. Leora activated the holoprojector. Symbols rose from the floor, floating in midair, glowing with soft light. Ethan reached out, moving his hands instinctively, tracing the shapes. Each movement sent ripples through the patterns, forming connections, opening new sequences. He could feel the alien's observation, a presence that seemed to probe his thoughts, yet he refused to be intimidated. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Each success brought a surge of confidence. Each mistake taught him something new. And through it all, Leora was there, guiding, encouraging, and challenging him. By midday, Ethan realized something extraordinary. Humans were capable of understanding this alien communication. It required creativity, adaptability, and trust in one's own intuition, but they could do it. And that, he understood, was what made humans unique. As the first part of the test ended, Ethan looked at Leora. She nodded, a small smile breaking across her face. "You're ready," she said. "Tomorrow, we show them the human mind in full. And they will see that humans are not just survivors, we are creators, thinkers, and explorers." Ethan felt a surge of pride. The path ahead was uncertain, the challenge immense. But for the first time, he felt the full weight and thrill of human potential. Tomorrow, the universe would watch. And tomorrow, humanity would rise. Ethan awoke to a stillness he had never experienced before. The Martian sky was faintly pink, the pale light filtering through the colony's dome, but this morning, the usual hum of the life support systems felt different, almost muted. His stomach tightened with anticipation. Today was the day. Today, everything Leora had prepared him for would be tested. He quickly dressed, securing his tools and notes. His mind ran over the patterns, the sequences, the glowing symbols from the holo show. Every detail mattered. Leora was already waiting in the hallway, her expression calm, but her eyes held the sharp intensity that Ethan had come to respect and fear. "They're here," she said quietly, without preamble. "The probes have arrived. They are observing. Remember, Ethan, They are testing humans. Not just you. Not just me. Humanity. Ethan felt a thrill of fear and excitement. He had imagined this moment countless times while studying the alien patterns. But nothing in his life had truly prepared him for an actual encounter. They walked together to the central projection room, where the holoprojector waited, idle and silent. But before Leora could begin, the lights outside the dome flickered, and a strange hum filled the colony. The ground trembled slightly under their feet. Ethan's heart leapt into his throat. From the sky, a soft, shimmering light descended, like a veil of liquid crystal. The probes were here floating, luminous, and impossibly precise in movement. Each one glowed with an inner light, neither harsh nor blinding, but alive, as if containing intelligence itself. The air seemed to hum with awareness. "They're beautiful," Ethan whispered, awe coloring his voice. "Yes," Leora said, "and they're evaluating us now. Watch them carefully. Everything we do will be noted, analyzed, interpreted." Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself. He thought of the holo show, of the patterns he had learned to trace, and of the symbols that had seemed impossible to understand. It all led to this moment. His fingers hovered in the air, and instinctively, he began tracing the familiar glowing shapes he had practiced countless times. The probes responded. Lights pulsed, and patterns shifted in the air, interacting with Ethan's movements. The sequence that had once seemed abstract now made sense as a form of communication. Every gesture, every subtle motion, created a response, forming a delicate dialogue. "This is it," Leora said softly. "They're seeing if we can engage, not just follow instructions. They want to see creativity, intuition, problem-solving. They want to see the human mind." Hours passed. Ethan and Leora worked together, tracing complex sequences, solving geometric puzzles projected in midair, and responding to subtle variations the probes created. It was exhausting, mentally and physically, but Ethan felt alive in a way he had never experienced. Then, a change occurred. The probes shifted from observing to presenting. They projected a vast pattern into the center of the room, glowing with an intensity that made Ethan's eyes water. The symbols were more complex than anything he had practiced. It was no longer just replication, it was innovation. They were asking humans to create something new, to demonstrate understanding rather than memorization. Ethan's pulse raced. He glanced at Leora. We have to interpret this in a new way. We can't just copy the patterns. We have to show them human thought." "Yes," Leora agreed. "This is why humans are different. Adaptability, creativity, ingenuity. We can do what no other species can." Working together, they began experimenting. They combined symbols in new ways, creating patterns that had never appeared in the holo show. At first, the probes reacted with hesitation, flickering softly, as if unsure how to interpret these innovations. But gradually, the patterns stabilized, responding with fluid grace to each of their movements. Ethan realized then what the probes were truly testing. Not strength, not numbers, not speed, but human intelligence in its purest form. The ability to see possibilities others could not. To create, adapt, and innovate under pressure. "This is incredible," Ethan breathed. "They're not judging us on what we know. They're judging us on what we can do." Leora nodded. "Exactly. And we're passing. Look at them, they're engaged, intrigued. That's the highest praise they can give." Oh, suddenly, a low vibration filled the air. The probes shifted again, forming a single, massive holographic shape, a structure of light that towered above them, spinning and pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost musical. Ethan's mind raced to interpret it. He realized it was a message, a more advanced sequence that required them to combine all their knowledge with creative intuition. "We can do this," Leora said firmly, her hands moving through the symbols. "We have to. Humanity depends on it." Together, they traced the patterns, adjusted the sequences, and experimented with new combinations. Ethan felt a strange exhilaration. The aliens were testing humans as a species, and he, an ordinary engineer, was part of that test. Every move mattered. Every idea could influence the outcome. Hours turned into an almost dreamlike flow. Ethan and Leora began to anticipate the probe's subtle signals, predicting shifts, creating solutions before the challenges fully appeared. It was as if the aliens were teaching and testing simultaneously, pushing them to a level of understanding far beyond ordinary human cognition. And then came the revelation. Ethan noticed a hidden rhythm in the sequences, a pattern that repeated in subtle variations. It was not just a puzzle, it was a language. A way to communicate intent, thought, and understanding. "They're teaching us their language," Ethan said, voice trembling with awe. "All this time, we thought it was a test. But they've been giving us the tools to communicate." Leora's eyes sparkled. "Yes. And we're ready to respond. Humanity is capable of understanding and creating. That is why they watch us. They need to know if we are ready for contact." Ethan's heart pounded. This was bigger than he had imagined. It wasn't just survival. It was proof that humans could think, create, and innovate in ways no other species had demonstrated. Humanity, small and fragile as it seemed, had the potential to engage with the universe. The probes pulsed with a brilliant light, and a calm voice echoed in their minds, not words, but thoughts, clear and deliberate. "We see. We understand. You have potential." Ethan and Leora exchanged a look of disbelief. The moment they had feared might be impossible had arrived. The aliens acknowledged them, recognized their creativity, and validated the human mind. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. "We did it," he whispered. We really did it." "Yes," Leora said, smiling. "Humanity did it. And this is only the beginning." The probes slowly began to ascend, moving toward the sky, their light fading as they left. The colony was quiet once more, but the air felt charged, alive with new possibilities. Humans had passed the first test, proving that they were more than survivors. They were thinkers, innovators, and explorers capable of engaging with a universe far larger than themselves. Ethan looked out at the Martian horizon, the red dust glowing in the fading light. For the first time, he truly understood the warning Leora had given him days ago. The holo show, the patterns, the practice, it had all been preparation for this moment. Humanity had been observed, judged, and recognized. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan felt the thrill of the unknown. The universe was vast, full of challenges and mysteries beyond imagining, but humans were ready. They had proven their worth, their intelligence, and their creativity. And if this was only the first contact, then the possibilities were limitless. As the night fell over the colony, Ethan sat beside Leora in silence. The experience had left them exhausted but exhilarated. They had touched something greater than themselves, glimpsed a future where humans were not just inhabitants of a small planet, but participants in a cosmic dialogue. Ethan realized something profound. The future was not about survival alone. It was about understanding, creating, and daring to think differently. Humans had passed their first test, and tomorrow, they would begin to imagine what humanity could achieve in a universe that was finally watching. The next morning, Ethan woke with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. The previous day had been unlike anything he had ever experienced, and the memory of the alien probes, glowing and alive, filled his mind. Humanity had passed the first stage proof of creativity and intelligence, but today, he knew, would be even more challenging. Leora was already in the hallway, pacing with quiet focus. "They're still observing," she said. "The probes haven't left. They are waiting for us to act, to demonstrate our understanding. Today, we respond, not just react." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. To act, not just react, meant creating something entirely new, a solution that could prove humans were not merely followers of patterns but innovators in the universe. He had trained his mind on the holoshow sequences, practiced the symbols and their combinations. But now, everything felt alive, unpredictable. They walked together to the central chamber, the air tense with anticipation. The probes hovered above, shimmering and silent, as if awaiting a signal. Then, with a soft hum, the largest probe projected a massive holographic grid in the center of the room. Unlike before, this grid was dynamic, constantly shifting, and filled with symbols that seemed almost impossible to decipher. "They're presenting the real test," Leora whispered. "Now we must demonstrate understanding, not imitation. They want to see human intuition, creativity, and problem-solving." Ethan's fingers hovered in the air. He took a deep breath, recalling every movement and pattern he had traced before. Slowly, carefully, he began. He moved his hands in the air, forming sequences, connecting symbols, experimenting with variations the aliens had never shown. Leora mirrored him, their motions synchronized, building a rhythm that was part thought, part instinct. The probes responded immediately. The grid pulsed, shifted, and formed new patterns in response to their creativity. It was as if the aliens were conversing with them, understanding every subtle choice they made. The challenge was exhausting but exhilarating. Hours passed. Yet time seemed suspended. Ethan and Leora pushed their minds to the limit, creating combinations that were untested, observing how the probes reacted, and adjusting accordingly. The aliens' lights shifted, sometimes soft and curious, sometimes sharp and precise, as if challenging them to go further. Ethan realized something important. The aliens were not just testing individual ability. They were testing cooperation, the human capacity to work together, communicate, and build solutions collectively. And it was true, they were better together, each movement and idea amplifying the other. "They're judging more than skill," Ethan said, voice low. "They're judging us as humans, as a species. Our ability to adapt, to cooperate, to create together." Leora nodded, her eyes bright. "Exactly. That's what makes humans special. Others may have intelligence, but humanity has innovation, intuition, and the ability to solve impossible problems under pressure." Then came a new challenge. The grid shifted dramatically, expanding into shapes that seemed impossible to interact with. Ethan and Leora paused, studying the patterns. They were no longer symbols alone, they were structures, sequences that required imagination, foresight, and planning. Ethan's mind raced. "We have to think beyond what we've practiced, beyond the patterns we know. We have to invent new solutions." "Yes," Leora agreed. "That's exactly what they want. Creativity under pressure. Intelligence in action. Humanity at its best." With careful thought, they began experimenting. Ethan traced new connections in the grid, imagining possibilities the aliens had not anticipated. Leora followed, adjusting her movements, refining their approach. The probes flickered at first, uncertain, then responded, pulsating with light that seemed almost approving. Minutes stretched into hours. The room became a blur of glowing shapes, rapid hand movements, and mental calculation. Sweat beaded on Ethan's forehead. But he could not stop. Every decision mattered. Every move was observed. The stakes were higher than anything he had faced on Mars or anywhere. And then, Ethan noticed something extraordinary. Within the chaos of the shifting grid, a subtle pattern repeated a hidden key that could unlock a higher level of interaction. He motioned to Leora, pointing it out. Together, they applied the insight, tracing the new sequences with precision. The probes responded immediately. The massive holographic grid stabilized, forming a coherent structure that seemed to shimmer with life. The lights pulsed rhythmically, sending vibrations through the room that felt almost musical. Ethan realized that they had not only solved the immediate challenge, they had demonstrated human creativity in a way the aliens could understand. "They see it," Ethan whispered, awe in his voice. "They understand our innovation." "Yes," Leora said softly, her face radiant. This is recognition. They know humans are capable of independent thought, problem-solving, and adaptation. That is what sets us apart. But the test was not over. The probes projected a final, enormous sequence, a combination of all previous patterns, layered with new, unexpected challenges. Ethan felt a pang of anxiety. This was the ultimate evaluation, the culmination of everything they had learned and created. Failure here could mean the difference between acknowledgement and rejection. Ethan inhaled deeply, forcing himself to focus. He felt the rhythm of the symbols, sensed the logic behind the sequences, and let intuition guide his hands. Leora followed, synchronizing her movements perfectly with his, their minds working as one. They improvised, created new solutions, and adapted instantly as the grid responded to every subtle gesture. The room pulsed with light, and the probes emitted a resonance that filled the space. Ethan realized that the aliens were no longer just observing, they were participating, testing, and learning from humans as well. The exchange was mutual, a dialogue of intellect and creativity that transcended words. Minutes felt like hours. Ethan and Leora pushed themselves further, tracing impossible sequences, adjusting, innovating, and improvising in perfect harmony. The final sequence, complex and dazzling, began to respond fully. Lights shimmered, patterns stabilized, and the probes pulsed with what Ethan could only interpret as approval. A calm, powerful thought filled Ethan's mind, not in words, but in understanding. You have demonstrated the potential of your species. You are worthy of engagement. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. He looked at Leora, and she smiled, exhausted, but triumphant. Humanity had passed the ultimate test. They had proven not only intelligence and adaptability, but creativity, intuition, and the ability to collaborate under pressure. Ethan felt pride surge through him. This was more than survival. It was proof that humans could think, innovate, and create solutions no other species could. The universe was no longer an indifferent expanse. It was a place where humanity could participate, contribute, and thrive. The probes slowly began to ascend, moving toward the sky. Their glow softened as they left, but the sense of awe and accomplishment remained. The colony, once quiet and routine, seemed alive with possibility. Humans had not only survived, they had impressed an alien intelligence, demonstrating that they were worthy of acknowledgement and contact. Ethan turned to Leora. We did it. Humanity. We really did it. Yes, Leora said, her voice calm but glowing with pride. And this is only the beginning. The universe has taken notice. And now, we must be ready for what comes next. Ethan realized that the challenge ahead would be greater, that more tests, more mysteries, and more opportunities awaited. But for the first time, he understood something profound. Humanity was ready, not because they were the strongest, the fastest, or the largest, but because they could think differently, adapt, and create under pressure. And as he looked out at the Martian horizon, the red dust glowing in the fading light, Ethan felt the thrill of discovery. The universe was vast, full of challenges and mysteries. But humans were ready. They had passed the test. They had shown that they were more than survivors. They were thinkers, innovators, and explorers capable of shaping their destiny. Tonight, the Martian sky would seem brighter. The stars would feel closer, and somewhere, beyond the red dust and the domes of the colony, alien eyes were watching, knowing that humans were no longer to be underestimated. Ethan woke to a quiet colony bathed in soft morning light. The Martian sky was a pale orange, dust shimmering faintly across the horizon. For a moment, everything seemed ordinary, until he remembered. Yesterday, humanity had faced a test unlike any other. They had interacted with an intelligence far beyond human understanding. They had succeeded. He stepped out of his small sleeping pod, stretching his arms and letting the adrenaline of the previous day settle. Leora was already up, moving quietly through the hallway, organizing her notes from the encounter. Her usual eccentric energy was tempered by calm determination, as if the weight of their success and its implications rested solely on her shoulders. They're gone, she said softly when she saw him. "But what we did. Ethan, it matters more than anything we've ever done before. Humanity has been seen and acknowledged." Ethan nodded, still feeling the echo of awe from yesterday. The probe's presence had been mesmerizing, their light pulsing in rhythm with human creativity. But it was more than that. It was validation. Humanity had not only survived the scrutiny of an alien intelligence, they had impressed it. They had proven ingenuity, intuition, and collaboration. "I keep thinking about the patterns," Ethan said, rubbing his temples. "The way they responded, it's like they were alive, aware of every thought." It was more than observation. It was conversation. "Yes," Leora agreed. "And that conversation has changed everything. Humanity can no longer think of itself as alone or limited. The universe has noticed what we are capable of." The colony stirred as other residents emerged from their domes. Whispers and quiet conversations filled the corridors. No one had spoken much about the alien presence directly. They hadn't needed to. The hum of excitement was palpable. Every colonist felt it. The sense that something extraordinary had occurred. That humans had taken their first step into a larger universe. Ethan walked toward the central chamber, where the hollow projector still glimmered softly, remnants of the previous day's sequences faintly visible. He ran his fingers through the air, almost instinctively, trying to recall the flowing patterns and sequences that had tested them. Memories of shapes, symbols, and glowing connections flooded back. He realized the experience had changed him not just mentally, but fundamentally. Leora joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "The potential? That's what they saw. That's what humanity can be. We've shown them that humans are more than survival instinct. We are innovation, creativity, and courage." Ethan nodded. "It feels incredible. Like we've taken a step into something larger than ourselves." "Yes," Leora said, eyes glinting. "And now, it's up to us to keep going. To learn, explore, and prepare. Humanity has passed its first test. But there is so much more ahead. The universe is vast, and it will demand even more from us." For the rest of the day, Ethan wandered the colony, observing the subtle changes in human behavior. People moved with quiet confidence, exchanging ideas, and collaborating in ways that felt different. There was an unspoken energy in the air, a sense that humans had crossed an invisible threshold. Even the youngest children, playing in the domed gardens, seemed to radiate curiosity and wonder, as if inheriting a newfound legacy of intelligence and courage. Ethan returned to Leora's dome later that afternoon. They sat together in the circular room, surrounded by screens and books, silent for a long moment. Then Leora spoke. "We need to study what happened, understand it fully. The patterns, the sequences, the communication, they're lessons we can't ignore. Humanity has been given a glimpse of a greater cosmos. We can't waste it." Ethan agreed. "We need to teach others. Not just here on Mars, but throughout all human colonies. Everyone should know what's possible. What humans are capable of." "Yes," Leora said, her voice firm. "This is only the beginning. The universe has tested us once. Next time, the stakes will be even higher, and humanity must be ready to meet them with courage, ingenuity, and unity." As night fell, the Martian sky glimmered with stars brighter than any Ethan had seen before. Somewhere beyond those distant points of light, alien eyes had witnessed humanity's potential, acknowledged it, and perhaps even learned from it. For the first time, he understood that humans were no longer just survivors of a harsh planet. They were participants in a cosmic story, capable of creating, solving, and thriving in ways other species might not yet imagine. He thought about Earth, now a distant memory, and the countless generations of humans who had survived wars, disasters, and the unforgiving environment of space. They had prepared the way for this moment, shaping a species that could stand before an alien intelligence with confidence, creativity, and courage. Ethan felt a surge of pride not just in himself or in Leora, but in humanity. Humans were small in the universe, yet they were extraordinary. Their minds, their ingenuity, and their willingness to face the unknown made them a force unlike any other. In the days that followed, the colony began to change. Work became more collaborative, study more ambitious, and exploration more daring. Ethan and Leora led efforts to analyze the sequences from the Holo show, developing new techniques to understand and communicate with alien intelligence. Other colonists joined in, eager to expand human potential and prepare for whatever might come next. The story of the first contact spread quietly through the colony. No one exaggerated the events, but everyone felt the significance. Humans had been tested, observed, and recognized. The feeling of accomplishment was matched by determination. This recognition was not an end, it was a beginning. Ethan often returned to the place where the probes had hovered, staring out at the Martian horizon. He imagined the vast expanse of space, filled with unknown worlds and civilizations. Somewhere out there, intelligent eyes might be watching, judging, and waiting. But for the first time, he felt that humanity was ready. Leora joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Do you realize what this means?" she asked. Ethan looked at her, understanding. "It means we are no longer just humans on a small, red planet. We are participants in a universe that notices us, and we can rise to the challenge." "Yes," Leora said, smiling, "and we will, together." Days turned into weeks, and the lessons from the alien sequences became the foundation of a new era in the colony. Humans practiced patterns, studied new forms of communication, and pushed the limits of their creativity. They learned to trust their instincts, think independently, and cooperate in ways that went beyond survival. Each success reinforced their confidence and their awareness that intelligence, adaptability, and ingenuity were their greatest strengths. Ethan often thought back to the first warning Leora had given him. "If you don't watch this show with me, don't come tomorrow." At the time, it had sounded strange, almost frightening, but now he understood its meaning fully. Humanity's survival, its recognition by another intelligence, had depended on trust, curiosity, and courage, the very qualities that had defined humans for millennia. One evening, as the colony gathered in the central chamber for a demonstration of newly decoded sequences, Ethan looked at the faces around him. Each person radiated determination, curiosity, and pride. They were no longer just colonists. They were pioneers, explorers, and innovators, ready to take humanity to new heights. The final sequence of the Holo show, once mysterious and intimidating, now pulsed softly in the chamber. Ethan and Leora traced its shapes together, guiding others in understanding and creativity. The aliens had left, but their lessons remained, embedded in the minds and hearts of humans ready to embrace the universe. Ethan looked out at the Martian sky, its vast expanse filled with stars and possibility. He felt a thrill of hope and excitement. The universe was no longer a distant, indifferent void. It was a place of opportunity, challenge, and wonder. Humans had passed the test. Humanity had proven itself. And deep in his chest, Ethan felt a spark of certainty. This was only the beginning. For the first time, he understood that humans were more than survivors. More than explorers, they were creators, thinkers, and a species capable of rising to any challenge the universe might present. Mars, once a barren and unforgiving world, had become the stage for humanity's awakening. And somewhere beyond the stars, alien intelligence had taken notice, a silent acknowledgement of what humans could achieve. Ethan turned to Leora, smiling. "We've started something extraordinary. The universe will never see humans the same way again." "Yes," Leora said softly, "and humanity will rise to meet it." And with that, the two of them stood together, staring at the horizon, ready for whatever the vast, mysterious universe might send next. The awakening had begun, and humanity was ready.